All right, so here is the official announcement. This came out yesterday as time of me recording this, but it took me a bit to, I guess, compile all of what is going on and find out what people are actually complaining about. I really just had to put everything together to find out what people were complaining about. So we kind of have 3 points to hit. And those 3 different points are going to be arena specific cards are bad. Mechanics that can only be done in the digital form is bad, and separating the digital and paper players further away from each other, I guess, if they already were. So let's get into the announcement. Basically, they said new and powerful cards, cool. Designed for digital mechanics, awesome, my opinion. Magic depth that reaches beyond the tabletop experience. It's all here. Jumpstart Historic Horizons expands the historic format further, providing a glimpse of what's possible for Magic the Gathering arena. There you go. This is basically everything that people are mad about. This is almost all 3 things rolled up into one sentence. Like, just everybody's mad about this thing, right? Arriving August 12th on MTG Arena, Jumpstart Historic Horizons add hundreds of new cards in Modern Horizons 2, which is awesome because there are a lot of Modern Horizons 2 cards that I know. I don't know, but Modern Horizons 2 is like a badass set according to a shit ton of people. Apparently it was like fucking amazing. A lot of people loved it. So I'm excited to see at least something coming from this. I haven't played Modern Horizons or Modern Horizons 2. I have no idea what the cards are. When the spoilers and stuff were out, I didn't care. I didn't look at them because I don't play paper. I don't play MTGO. None of this shit mattered to me. So these are all of them are brand new cards to me. And beyond that, alongside 31 new to Magic cards in this digital release. So that means 31 new Magic cards will be on Arena only, and that's going to be point number 1, by the way. A lot of people are mad about this. Even though there's already some cards that are Arena specific, they're not very good. Most of them aren't very good, but they are there. These cards feature mechanics made for MTG Arena as well, so obviously if they're specific to MTG Arena, they should be specific to MTG Arena for a reason, right? If they were just specific to MTG Arena for the sake of being specific, it would be kind of weird, and I could validate a lot of the complaints on that. I'd be like, whoa, this card is really good. It would be amazing in Standard, or it would be amazing in Modern, or Pioneer, or whatever other format, and then I could understand that. But if it's completely different mechanics and stuff like that that primarily only work in a digital setting, then that completely changes the whole discussion. These cards feature mechanics made for MTG Arena, extending what's possible with digital play. So Seek is the first mechanic. Powerful tutors grab random card from your deck that matches specific criteria. So this is interesting, but there's no shuffling, no time spent looking at options. It just grabs a card, works out the deck, and the game keeps moving. So the way that this works, so let's say I scry 3 cards to the top, right? I scry 3 cards to the top, and then I play a Seek card. Now, there are many times that I've personally played a card, but I didn't want to search my library because I have cards that I know are on the top of my deck that I didn't want to get. Let's say Approach of the Second Sun. So I have Approach of the Second Sun. It's 7th from the top. I don't want to shuffle my library because that means my Approach of the Second Sun gets shuffled somewhere within the deck. So Seek helps a lot more because if Seek is like, hey, find a land or something, then it'll just look for a random land. I don't know all the cards because all the cards haven't been spoiled, but I know there is one that says seek to find a creature in your deck that is amongst the most common creature type in your deck. So if I only have 4 of one creature, that seek will always find that one creature. So if the only creature I have is Olamog, it will always find the Olamog. So that is also something to note. It's not only going to be something like elves, right? Because elves are obviously the most prominent card type. If you're going to run an elf deck, it's going to be an elf deck. you're running an angel deck, you're going to have a bunch of other things because you'll have Heliod, you'll have I don't know, you'll have a lot of little 1/1s, things that support angels but aren't necessarily angels. So that's kind of what I mean by that. But it's really interesting how the Seek mechanic works. I believe it is powerful. I don't know how it's going to fully be utilized because obviously we don't have all the cards, but we'll see. We'll see. The next one is going to be perpetually. So you're going to permanently change the characteristics of a card no matter where it goes afterwards, taking advantage of MTG Arena's ability to alter cards no matter where they go during gameplay. Powerful benefits and unique changes add strategies found nowhere else in Magic. So this is stuff like perpetually give this creature -2/-2. So if I put this on an Adanto Vanguard, let's say opponent plays an Adanto Vanguard, and I'm like, perpetually give it -2/-2. It ends up going into the graveyard, and then they have something like Eerie Ultimatum, where they can bring one of each permanent of different name to the battlefield. And they end up bringing back that Adanto Vanguard. That Adanto Vanguard goes right back to the graveyard because it still has that -2/-2. And since Adanto Vanguard is like whatever, a 1/1 or 2/1 or whatever the fuck it is, it will always be there, regardless if it's put in exile and then removed from exile and played, if it gets bounced to your hand and then replayed, if it gets shuffled into your library and played, graveyard played, regardless, it will perpetually have that stat associated with it. And it's the same with the buff. However, it's just that one card. So if you have two Adanto Vanguards go into the graveyard, you just have to make sure you select the proper Adanto Vanguard that doesn't have the debuff to bring it back to the battlefield. That is really interesting. Again, we don't know what all the capabilities are for that, but we did see another card that said all dragons in your hand perpetually become one colorless less, and they cost colorless X to cast, where X is its mana value. So this means that anytime you draw a dragon, it will always cost one less, even if that card leaves the battlefield, because it's perpetual, and it will only cost any color. It's just ridiculous. That card seems a bit fucking ridiculous. So I'm interested to see how many dragon decks could come back, because it's definitely possible that could come back. Tiamat could be a thing to reckon with, especially because if you have that and then you draw a Tiamat's 6 colorless mana to play it, and you get to search for 5 other dragons, and they're all one colorless less, and they all cost just colorless generic mana. It could be a good card. It could definitely be a really, really good card. You can run it in a colorless shell and just splash red for that permanent that does it. You can do some wacky shit with it, and I think it could be extremely powerful, maybe a bit too overpowered, depending on how crazy you go with it. So I'll most likely try to break this perpetual type thing. I don't know how they're going to fix it or change it. I don't know yet. But it is something that's interesting. Then the last mechanic that they're bringing to Arena only is going to be Conjure. So Conjure creates cards out of thin air as a digital object that acts like a normal card would. Powerful spells and artifacts can conjure up iconic, powerful, or just plain useful cards, from Tropical Island, which is a dual land, to Stormfront Pegasus, which is like whatever, to Ponder, which is like an actual brainstorm that's reasonable. Reasonable brainstorm. So this is really interesting because you're not making a copy of a card, because you know, like it with Mizzix Mastery, you're exiling a card, you're making a copy, and then you're casting the copy. This conjure mechanic, you're not making a copy of that card and putting it in your hand, you're just making the card. It's just a normal plain card. So they can Thoughtseize it, and it goes to your graveyard, and it stays as a card in your graveyard, or at least that's how they make it sound. So you can bring it back from your graveyard to your hand. That's interesting to me because there's a lot of weird, janky things that you can do with that. And of course, me being a jank-centric person, I really like this because there's just so many other things you can do with it. Just being able to feed things like draw discard spells even more, because you're able to conjure spells consistently and put it into your hand all the time. It's just an additional card draw or fodder for you to discard every single turn. I think it has a lot of potential to do some weird stuff, but again, we don't know everything that can be done with it, right? And just like 2020's digital Jumpstart release, you can craft all these cards with wild cards of the appropriate rarity, or receive them by opening packets in Jumpstart historic events. This is the part that people aren't necessarily complaining about when they should be. I think there's a lot of people that are still complaining about the wild card system in general. And this is the valid criticism. I believe this is the main criticism that everyone should be focusing on more than anything else. Talking from someone who just really has the biggest problem with this. If you're trying to get these cards, if you're trying to build a playset, the problem is that you have to go in to this event, start the event. You get to pick from 2 different packs. Packs are randomly generated. We don't know how many different packs there are. We don't know how many different packlets they are. We know there's some. I think last time there was like 10 or 12, but different rarities of different ones. So you get to pick one of the 2, pick one of them, and then next, another set of 2 packs come up, and you pick one of those. Then you put them together, you have a deck, whatever, you have the cards. Then what you have to do is you have to concede, and then you have to start the event, buy into the event. You have 2 packs, you have to pick one of them. Then the next set of 2 packs come up, you pick one of those. Concede the event, join the event, purchase. You have to do all that over and over and over again. The thing is that there's never a guarantee that you will get the cards that you're looking for. You can't just buy a certain packlet. Now, again, there are problems with this, even more so. It's because even though the packs are not guaranteed to always show up, like, okay, I always want to get this pack, you'll only get a choice of like 2, maybe 3. I don't exactly recall. It's either 2 or 3. But every pack will not show up every single time you join it. But as on top of that, not every rare that you're looking for in that pack will show up. Some of them only have like a 25% drop rate in that pack. So not only is there a rare chance of you getting a pack, there's a rare chance of you getting a card that's in that pack. So that just makes it way worse. They won't just allow us to buy the packs. That's my biggest criticism of this. However, this time around, they are offering duplicate protection. They did not do that last time around. The fact that they're doing it this time is so very, very, very important. Now, when the first Jumpstart came out, there was a message going around from a Discord server from a WotC employee that said there is no way to dupe protection in a product with fixed contents. Doesn't even make sense. Jumpstart packs are made for playing Jumpstart. No one is expecting you to complete set of Jumpstart. We're hoping you play and enjoy Jumpstart. So it seems like this is the same exact stance they had going back 2 years or whenever this was, July 15, 2020. So it was like a year ago. You can't just buy the cards. You have to go through the wild card system. You can't just buy the packs. But they're saying, we don't expect you to complete the set. We expect you to play Jumpstart and have fun playing Jumpstart. We would never expect you to complete a collection of this collectible card game. Even though these cards are restricted to Jumpstart and historic only, we're not going to expect you to collect this for historic only. That doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't think they understand how fucking stupid that this makes them sound. I think this is the only real valid criticism that there is on this particular thing. From everything that I've seen, all the complaints that I've seen, this is the only valid criticism, is obtaining the cards. This event will be taking place August 12th through September 9th. So unfortunately, it's also extremely limited time. I get the events being limited time. It's kind of the whole the Whopper Big Mac thing. If anybody remembers that from like way back in the day, I hardly remember it. But like Whoppers and Big Macs, there was just a limited time frame to where you could obtain it. It was like 1 month out of the year that these were available, and sales for those times just like boosted up, and their stocks went up, and then it kind of slowly trickled down, and then all of a sudden the stocks boosted up. So did income, all that stuff. Then eventually there was enough like outrage to where they had to make it a permanent item on the menu. And then they realized that after all of that, everything, the interest, the hype about it, everything ended up just kind of going down. And it It wasn't that great. So I understand they're using like the Big Mac and Whopper model in here, what I can understand. Because they're doing it like once a year, right? Note that any cards already on MTG Arena will use existing versions and follow version duplicate protection rules. So the fact that they're following duplicate protection rules this time is exactly what they needed to do. The fact that they didn't do it last time was an atrocity. I can't believe they fucking did that. The fact they're doing it this time is a big step in the right direction. But for example, 2 of these new to Magic cards appear in the animated packet, one of the 46 unique packets of cards. So there's 46 unique packets, and you get to choose 2, but 1 out of, it might be 3. So when you first join the event, you pick 1 pack of 3, and then the next set comes out, or the next option comes up, and you have another set of 3. So you have a 1 in 46 chance, or I guess a 3 in 46 chance, to get the pack you're looking for. But each pack has a different variance of how rare each pack is to get. And then within those packs, there's different rarities of the cards that you may be looking for. So this is the fucking problem that I have. This is the biggest problem I have, is obtaining the cards. So first, what are Ethereal Grasp and Tome of the Infinite? So Ethereal Grasp, 3 mana instant, tap target creature. That creature perpetually gains. This creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, and then has 8 colorless, untap this creature. So again, if I use this on like whatever, some Praetor, right? I just do instant, put that on a Praetor, taps it, doesn't untap. They have to pay 8 mana in order to untap it. So if they're doing resurrection type stuff, they're just kind of fucked. They can't attack with it, which is nice. It still gets all the passives and stuff like that, but they can't untap it unless they pay 8, which is usually in another 3, 4, 5 turns later on. So this is just good in general, especially if you end up wiping the board after that and then they try to reanimate it again. It doesn't come into play tapped. It just doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So you will also want to keep that in mind. Tome of the Infinite, this is another one that people are, or this is the one that I think people are freaking out about more than anything else. And this is the one that could be broken, and I will most likely break this. But Tome of the Infinite, 3 mana legendary artifact with 1 blue tap, conjure a random card from Tome of the Infinite's spellbook into your hand. It perpetually gains. You may spend mana, Ezo, or mana of any color to cast this spell. So that's really cool. But it's only 1 mana, and then you're creating a card and putting it into your hand. It is a random card out of a pool of these cards. So we'll go over those in a second. The cards that you have to choose from is Light of Hope. So you can gain 4 life, destroy an enchantment, put a 1/1. So you'll never put a 1/1 counter on target creature. You're not really going to ever run this card with a deck that runs creatures that you'll need to put a 1/1 counter on. It's very, very, very rare, right? So destroying target enchantment or gaining 4 life is what you'll get if it's random. And again, this is just 1 colorless to do, or it's 1 blue, so now this is going to be 1 colorless after that. Swords to Plowshares, finally making it legal, quote unquote. Going to be 1 mana, exile target creature, its controller gains life equal to its power. So this is just a good card. Force Spike, kind of shitty, but I mean very shitty, because even if you get this on turn 3 and then you do this on turn 4 and get a Force Spike to try to counter a spell, the chances of them paying, I guess playing a 4 mana spell on 4 is pretty normal, but if you're on the draw, then they're going to be playing a 4 mana spell on turn 5 usually and still have 1 mana open. And especially if you have this card on the battlefield and it's untapped, everyone knows that it's the possibility of you getting Force Spike. So everyone's going to play around Force Spike. So this is essentially going to be a useless card. Ponder's really good, I think, especially for 1 colorless. It's not instant, which sucks, but it's still really good. You look at the top 3 cards, put back in any order, you may shuffle, and then draw a card. So that's kind of cool. Dark Ritual is a bit overpowered, but it's 1 colorless to add 3 black sources specifically. So if you're not running black, then this is kind of useless-ish unless you're also running things that require a lot of colorless mana that you can just kind of dump this into. But even then, you're only netting 1 mana because it's 1 to activate and then 1 to cast, and then you're getting 3 mana. So you're really only getting 1 mana out of that, unless you're, of course, building up multiple Dark Rituals in your hand over time, right? Duress is great because if you're running mono blue and you get a Duress, I mean, that's kind of nice. Or Azorius Control with a Duress, so that's fucking annoying. Or Bant Control with a Duress, fuck that. Assault Strobe, probably won't use this that much. Using that card in a deck that needs Assault Strobe, very, very odd, but I suppose possible. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. I guess could be a nice finisher if you have a Gear Hulk out. It's definitely possible. And then Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt's obviously ridiculously good. 1 colorless to do 3 damage at that point. The original Fog, prevent all non-combat damage. That's great. And then Giant Growth. Target creature gets +3/+3. So you're going to have to either accept the fact that you're going to get a lot of useless cards from this, or you're going to have to put a lot of suboptimal cards to build around this card. So I really don't think this is going to be an issue of a card. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Some Conjure cards lay out exactly what you'll create, but others like Tome of the Infinite offer an exciting variety of outcomes. I think that's what people are pissed off about. An exciting variety? I'll show you exciting variety. Shut the fuck up. We'll share details about cards like Tome of the Infinite with the card image gallery. Secondly, you may notice Tome of the Infinite isn't actually listed above. An exciting update from the original Jumpstart packets. There are even more variety with Jumpstart Historic Horizons, as some cards can replace select cards in each pack. For animated packet, here's what the variance looks like. So, specifically in this one packet, that's a 1 in 64 chance, or 1 in 46, sorry, 1 in 46. So it's what? The first one is going to be 3 out of 46. The next one's going to be 3 out of 46. I don't know if you can get the same pack twice in one, but let's be generous and say it's 6 out of 46. So is that 13%? Okay, so you have a 13% chance. The math is not correct, by the way. It's way less than that. But 13% chance, being very generous, that you are going to get this pack, right? So you have a 50, if you get this pack and you really wanted, let's say, this Petitioner for whatever reason, you have a 25% chance to get this Petitioner, a 25% chance to get this Sailor, or a 50% chance to get this. So if you don't have any common wild, this is a bad example because nobody's going to do that. But, right, so for Tome of the Infinite, if you're trying to get this over Ethereal Grasp, it's a 33% chance. So most likely you'll get Ethereal Grasp in this packet instead of Tome of the Infinite. Tome of the Infinite is a 33% chance. Out of the 13% chance that you can even get the packet, you have 33% chance to get Tome of the Infinite. You see where I'm going from this? So the chances just get lower and lower and lower. And duplicate protection may be a thing, but I don't know if you have 4 Ethereal Grasps, if it's just going to automatically start to give you the Tome of the Infinites. I don't exactly know how that's going to work for them, but it's not a good system at all. They just need to allow us to purchase the packs individually, just period. And then they said there aren't basic lands included in the packet list, which is both good and bad, because last time I literally spent 18,000, I actually think it was 20,000 gems. I spent about 20,000 gems to get this fucking Millstone Island, because the basic lands are restricted to certain packets. And that packet just didn't show up for a really long time. This one specifically, this Millstone Island. I really wanted this island, and so I kept joining the Jumpstart because you couldn't craft this land. You could only obtain it through the packets. So I had to keep joining Jumpstart in order to get this land. So I spent like a fucking $100, which I didn't even realize it was that much because it was all in gems and I'm a fucking idiot, right? So I spent like $100 trying to get this goddamn island, right? It's a really, really, really stupid thing. I wish it didn't happen, but it did. And it seems like they're not doing that again, which is nice. So they're not included in the packet list. That's another feature in MTG Arena that adds to this release. When you play Jumpstart, you'll automatically receive a mix of basic lands based on the packets you choose. So maybe there's some special art We don't know yet. Balanced for the costs and activated abilities, spells, and packets. So that's cool how they just automatically do that. But even better, you also receive non-basic lands for play. Packets you choose will add cycling lands from Historic Anthologies 2, which I really like the cycling lands, to be honest. It's just 1 mana cycling. 1 mana cycling lands is great, especially if you're doing an event like this. It's just ridiculous. Or multicolored dual lands from Core Set 2020, such as this one, which is like tap, gain a life. It comes into play tapped, but you gain a life. It's still a dual land, which is nice in limited formats. But of the appropriate colors to your deck, cycling lands for packets with 1 color and dual lands for packets with multiple colors. So that's nice. You can kind of build around a little bit better in that way. If you haven't acquired these lands before, they'll also be added to your collection, and these non-basic lands are considered basic lands determined for your deck. So, and that's it. Long story short, this is a digital format for a digital platform doing digital only mechanics. That whole part is fine. There is nothing wrong with this. There's literally nothing wrong with them doing this. They made it clear what the format was when they initially announced it and released it fucking 2 years ago. What do you expect? That's the question. What did you expect? You wanted it to really just be another paper format on a digital only platform with a digital only format that was meant to be fun. Like, it wasn't meant to be competitive. That's why they didn't even have a ranked system for a really long time for Historic. They didn't even have best of 3 for a while for Historic. It was like best of 1 only from what I recall. And there's so many things about this that it's obvious that Historic was going in a direction of exactly what's happening right now, except they're legitimately doing it. They're coming out with new mechanics that aren't being done. I guess some of these have been done in other card games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra, and a lot of people are saying that it completely messed up those games. But the thing is that, once again, this is specific to Historic. This isn't going into Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Standard. This isn't going into Sealed outside of Jumpstart. This isn't going anywhere in the game outside of Historic. All right? It's not going anywhere outside of Historic, which is a digital format on a digital platform. It's not supposed to be a paper format by definition, by the inception of the format. Now, as far as point number 2 goes, to where new mechanics that can only be done on Arena are bad, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's bad. I would say that it's good because they're experimenting with new things. It being bad is more of a people who only play on paper or who would rather play on paper. Some of these mechanics may seem really cool to them, but since they'll never be on paper, they're going to be upset because these alleged cool mechanics cannot be done on paper. So they're like, fuck, we're just missing out. You're essentially forcing us to play on Arena, which isn't the case at all because, again, Historic was always a digital format on a digital application meant to be fun. Have we established this yet? So let's go ahead and start out with what the Historic format is. Now, I mean, let's just read it, I guess. Let's just read. This is off the mtg.fandom.com. It's the MTG wiki, right? So Historic format. Historic is a constructed, non-rotating format for Magic: The Gathering Arena that was officially announced by WotC on June 27th, 2019. Okay, so you see how it says for Magic: The Gathering Arena. It doesn't say for Magic Arena and Paper or Magic Arena Online or Magic Online. None of that stuff. Historic DCI Sanctuary. I know DCI isn't like a thing anymore, but you get the point. Paper, non-existent. Magic Online, non-existent. Magic Arena, yes. Okay. Rules constructed. Rules best of 1 and best of 3. Cool, right? We're all on the same page. It's only MTG Arena, right? So Magic Arena is a digital only game. You still on the same page? So Historic is only for Magic the Gathering Arena. Magic the Gathering Arena is only digital. Okay, keep that in mind. I may have reminders. I may have reminders show up. All right, the reminder is Historic is only on Magic Arena, and Magic Arena is digital only. All right, cool. Historic was implemented in November 2019 as a format that allows arena players to make use of cards that are no longer legal in standard after the rotation happened. So this particular rotation was the Eldraine, I believe, or when Eldraine came out, that rotation that happened. They're like, okay, well, we don't want your old cards to go to waste, so we'll add in a new format because we don't want to give you all the wild cards back, or basically all the gems. Like, we don't want to refund you, so we're just going to make this extra format. This is only for MTG Arena. Like, they made that specific, right? Or they made that clear, rather. Format is exclusive to MTG Arena. Oh, there you go. And it's intended to be a fun and casual way that the players can continue to play with all the cards in their collection. On the other hand, Paper Magic and Magic Online use the Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, and Vintage non-rotating formats. Unusually, Historic has some quirks that prevent it from being a subset of larger formats, such as Jumpstart, Historic Anthologies, and the Arena New Player Experience cards. Historic legal sets, for those from Ixalan onward, cards from earlier sets are added at WotC's discretion. So WotC has specifically said that they're curating the Historic format, so they add specific cards going back sets. They've added cards into Arena and then ban them as soon as they come into Arena, but that doesn't necessarily say they're always going to be banned. So as they add in more cards, the power level is probably going to go up, because initially when they said they're bringing in Historic, they will eventually add in cards until Pioneer is fully in Arena. And then once Pioneer is fully in Arena, then Historic and Pioneer will completely split apart from each other. And what that will do is that Arena will have a similar power level to Modern. So in Modern, there's a bunch of other super powerful things, and obviously we have Bolt. There's just a lot of stuff that we have. So I believe they're going to unban a lot of the cards that came out in Mystical Archive that just automatically came in banned. It's also possible that they will make changes to existing cards and make them Historic specific. So they had the event that came out, whatever, a week or two ago, where things like Fires of Intervention became 5 mana instead of 4, and then you have the 3 mana Teferi ended up being 4 mana. They made a bunch of changes to various cards. It's definitely possible that they make those changes permanently, or continue to tweak those cards and actually add them into Historic as their own set, as far as rebalanced Historic cards or something like that. It's definitely something that they can do, because there is the technology in a digital game. And since it is a digital game and Historic is a digital only format, this is something that they should be doing. They should be balancing the cards around everything. Everyone's complaining about how many bans there are all the time. All the time. Everyone's complaining about how many oh, there's so many bans. There's ban. Why is there so many bans? Blah, blah, blah. This is a solution. Historic. The only online exclusive format for MTG Arena. That is the exact solution that everyone is already complaining about. It already exists. It does exist. They have the power to do it. They have shown that they're experimenting with things, and people are just not happy about it for whatever reason. I just don't understand. So if we go to the announcement article, we'll see that Historic play, there will be events and other ways you'll be able to use cards from sets no longer in Standard in a format we're calling Historic. This will include a Historic play queue, both best of 1 and best of 3, direct challenge, practice matches with Sparky, as well as some of our rotating events that are not beholden to Standard, such as Popper, Singleton, etc. Historic will be specific to MTG Arena. This is coming from this article. This is a WotC article. I know that this one was from a wiki, and people may be saying that exact thing. It's from a wiki, but it says Historic will be specific to MTG Arena, which is a digital format on a digital platform. Right? MTG Arena is a digital platform, right? Remember? Right? Is that what it is? Yeah. MTG Arena is digital only, correct? Historic is only on MTG Arena, so it's digital only? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think so. And we intended it for it to be a fun and casual way you can continue to play with all the cards in your collection. Exactly what it said at the top of this little wiki thing. As you can see, the citations that it has in here. So I don't know what the complaint is about that. I mean, I guess people may be disappointed on that front, but I don't know. There's some type of wildly outlandish claim that people, with the addition of these new cards, people can no longer play Historic in paper, which to me is a stupid concept, I guess. It's like if you wanted to play Historic, you play it on Arena because it's exclusive to Arena. If you wanted to play a format on paper that doesn't exist in a sanctioned tournament on paper, then you can play it on paper with your special rules. I mean, isn't that how Commander was born? Isn't that how... I mean, there's so many rules that just friend groups have within each other or local game stores. They're sitting there like, okay, we don't want you to play Land Destruction, so no one plays Land Destruction at their local game store, or at least in your friend group of 10, 20 people, however many people are in your friend group, 3 people, 10 people, something like that. A lot of people have these little restrictions like that in their play group. And yet you're forced to have this restriction because these cards aren't on paper. But at the same time, this format was never, ever, ever designed to ever be played on paper. It was just there so people had something to do with their old cards in MTG Arena. Just because you ended up liking it and wanted to play it on paper, that has nothing to do with WotC. WotC said, hey, this is a really cool thing that we can do with this format. We can actually do a lot of stuff. We can start experimenting with various other mechanics. We can start changing actual card text. We can do all sorts of things. We might actually be able to make MTG Arena really competitive in the digital card format because we already have paper on lockdown. Nobody can fuck with us on paper, which is what, 1,000% true. Who can fuck with WotC on paper? Nobody. You think Digimon, whatever the fuck? I don't know. Nobody can compete with Magic on paper. So they're like, okay, well, how do we beat out Hearthstone? How do we beat out Legends of Runeterra? Okay, let's take a couple of their mechanics that they do and let's just make them better. How about that? Easy. So they're gonna essentially snipe all their players and be like, hey, I know you hate Hearthstone because it's a bad game. We're Magic. We're a great game. But we also do the same things that all the Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra people were complaining about that Magic doesn't do, being consistent balancing, card changing, things like that. So they're just going to bring a shit ton of people into Magic by doing this by default. So the people that are complaining about this are just wrong on so many levels, in my opinion. I just don't think they know what they're talking about. I think they're just elitist fucks, to be honest. I really do just think they're elitist fucks. There are some valid criticisms. I'm 100% going to give people that. You don't want more randomization in the game. I 100% can see that being an issue. It's already a randomized based game. It depends on how powerful these cards are. It's definitely possible that these cards are total shit and randomization just makes it more shit, right? So nobody's going to play it. There are things like that. Think Mirror March. Think almost all of the D20 mechanics. Like, does anybody? I'm trying to think if anyone plays any of the D20 mechanics in like a newer standard or historic list that's legitimately competitive. I can't really think of one off the top of my head. There might be one, but I'd have to actually take a look into it. I just don't think there is one. So a lot of these randomized mechanics that everyone's complaining about, they are fun mechanics, which is, again, what historic was made for. It was made for fun. Fun. Intended for it to be fun and casual way. Fun. Sometimes random shit is fun. If you've ever played Mirror March, I mean, Mirror March is not fun because it's definitely not 50%. But if you ever actually played Mirror March and you flip a coin and it flips like 50 times, it's like ding, 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 ding. That shit is fun, right? It happens 1 in 100 times, maybe, if you're lucky, right? But it's fun. It's fun. And then the third point, I guess that is the most important point that everyone keeps talking about, is they're separating the digital and paper community more than ever because WotC has consistently said that they want to focus on paper more than anything else, and that paper is the bare bones, it's the foundation of the game, right? So it should always be paper first, then everything else is secondary, which, I can agree with on some cases, but just because it's a foundation doesn't mean we can't add a second story to it. We should be able to add windows or blinds or pretty little frilly things to make it new and shiny and make it so that it holds up to some newer games. We should be able to take all these things that other games are doing and failing at, making it better, applying it to a better game, and then showing everyone else in the other games to be like, hey, we have something that's really similar to that, just as those games have a lot of things that are similar to Magic and doing horribly. It's like these other games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra have some mechanics, obviously, that emulate some things in Magic. Some of them have done it well. Some of them have done it very poorly. And it's definitely possible that Magic takes mechanics from one of those two games or other games, Gwent, whatever the fuck, brings it into Magic Arena, and all of a sudden, it's a good mechanic. It's much better. So, I don't understand the animosity towards this. Nobody's seen all the cards. You haven't played with them. And the majority of the people that are pissed off, because I've seen so many comments, I read like a giant thread with it, just looking at the topic of this Jumpstart thing. People are just complaining all over the place. However, looking through it, literally looking through it, I was looking at all the people who are the loudest. I go to their profiles. They, one, either don't play Arena at all, which makes their argument 100% invalid, because what the fuck? They don't even care about the digital format, period. So it doesn't matter. Their opinions aren't even applicable. It's like, okay, you're not playing the format. What do you care what happens to the format? They're complaining about the mechanics being random and unfun, blah, blah, blah. They're complaining about something that they won't even ever experience because they've never played Magic Arena or they don't play Magic Arena, right? These people who are paper only, who, again, they don't play Arena, people who are standard only players who are never going to have to deal with historic anyway, people who are limited only who don't even play Jumpstart or may play Jumpstart for a little bit, and, because it's only going to be around for a few weeks out of the year, and that's it. I don't understand where these people are coming from. The people who main historic, I don't see people really complaining about this. I don't see any of the biggest people really complaining about how this is going to fuck up historic and fuck up the game as a whole. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think it's the people who just don't, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody is complaining about it and somebody has a valid argument outside of the things that I've pointed out in this video, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd really be interested because I could definitely be missing something. I'm obviously biased because I love Historic. I think that adding in new mechanics that are just specific to Arena is perfectly fine, because I was well aware that it's a digital only format on a digital platform. So I expected them to do this. I've said for years since I started Arena, oh, this is finally a platform that they can go through and they can actually change the mana value on the cards. They can change the rulings. They can do all this other stuff. And then when Historic was announced, I was like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. They can make all these changes to these cards and not even have to worry about other formats. And so then people saying that, okay, it's just going to separate the communities between paper and digital and things like that. And the thing is that for me, I have been so separated from the paper community for a long time now. This was mostly willingly, because of the fact that I have no self-control when it comes to buying paper Magic cards. If I start to build decks and things like that, like you've seen the decks. If you're watching this, you've probably been on the channel a few times. You see the shit that I build, and it's like 50 rares, 10 mythics, or 40 rares, 20 mythics. Like every single card in my deck is going to be somewhat of an expensive card. If it's at least just like $1 rare, I need a play set of every single card in every single set, right? That's already pretty expensive if you're doing it in paper. However, I have no self-control, so I'm going to sit there and be like, okay, I need to foil this deck out. Okay, I need to get limited edition of these things. Like I'm going to need to do all this other stupid stuff because I have no self-control, right? And I realize that, and that's why I just don't play paper. I just can't play paper for that reason. However, the more I see all of these people that are paper main or paper centric people, and granted, it's not everyone. I know it's not everyone. And it's just the loudest people on Twitter, which is like the fucking cancer of the Magic community for sure. It's just paper people complaining and hating on Arena and Arena players constantly. That's all it is. And it just makes me never want to go back to paper, because I don't want to deal with those people. I don't want to have to deal with just like the annoyance. They're just so fucking annoying. Because I know if I go, I feel like if I go to a store and I'll be like, oh yeah, I stream Magic Arena, I do Historic only, this stuff, and they're like, oh, you're Historic only, you only play digital formats, blah blah blah. Historic isn't a real format. Like I already get that enough from Arena people. I don't fucking need that from paper players, right? And you get that all over the place on Twitter, and I just don't even want to experience that. So I just separated myself completely from paper players. The only paper players I can even get along with right now are Commander players. That's it. Every other paper player community, I can't get along with, just because they're fucking assholes. They just automatically dismiss you because you play on Arena. Just automatically. And I think it's disgusting, and I think it's fucking stupid. But for some reason, they feel the need to criticize everybody and everything about something that could be very good for the game. If they're implementing these things to steal players from games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra because they're getting mechanics that are in those games, and then they do it better in a better game, I don't really know how that's a bad thing, because you never know. If you're exposing people to a game, it's definitely possible that they could move to paper. You understand that, right? They may stay digital only, but the only people that are really separating and segregating both digital and paper seem to really just be the paper people. And this is me saying right here is that I am also guilty of that. Because right now, I just fucking hate paper players because the only thing I get from paper players is negativity. Unless it's a commander player, the only thing I get is negativity. I've never had a positive encounter with a paper player that's not a commander player in the last 2 years that I've been streaming and playing Arena. It's just, I don't know. I can't explain it. There's literally, I can't think of a single one. I just can't think of a single one. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you outside of that. Everybody seems to be up in arms about something that doesn't affect them in any way. They just seem to be big baby bitches about everything that they can try to complain about. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to this point, it means you either really enjoyed the video or you fell asleep and I'm waking you up now. Either way, thank you for all the support. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, come out with videos 7 days a week.